Alright, people. Review of the week time. So, lot to get into. A lot of boxing happened over the weekend, which we obviously got to talk about. It's a late actual recording of Review of the Week for me. I normally record this kind of coming up to 7, 8 o'clock. But obviously we had Dillian Whyte, which we will be talking about that. I've not long finished the post-fight review, so I'm not going to talk necessarily that much about the fight. I'll talk about it in a wee bit. More so what he does after. Before we actually talk about the preview this coming week and the fights that happened, you know, when I do review of the week, I normally get my boxing news from Michael Benson's Twitter page, because now I know it's the majority of what he tweets is him just, saying what Coppinger, showing what, the zone have done. But it was handy because it was all on the one page, so you just scroll down and be like boom, 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 boom. He was an editor, I think, for TalkSport, was being the word. Apparently he's not anymore, because his Twitter handle is now The Ring Magazine. So I'm wondering, if Turkey has bought that page, man, my guy can retire. He is retired. Not just from Twitter, he's retired from life in general. I mean, he is... Because the Twitter page is like, 200 something thousand? I didn't think there was something up with it. Because I remember about a week or so ago, he started deleting a lot of old tweets he was putting out. A lot of them. I was thinking, what's going on here? So we will use, moving forward, Everything Boxing. Now, I use Everything Boxing quite a bit. Benson, I just haven't bookmarked, so it was easier. But Everything Boxing, great X account. Go and have a look. He puts up some great boxing news. Let's just talk about the fights that happened last night. Let's start with the Matchroom show. So I only caught the highlights of MJ Akhmadaliev versus Ricardo Franco. Now, MJ Akhmadaliev looked good, did what he needed to do. He is a good fighter, MJ Akhmadaliev. He really is. Now, he has that sole loss, which was against Marlon Tappas. Now, as a result of that, Tappas ended up fighting Naoya Inoue. Now, Naoya Inoue, just so you know, his fight against Sam Goodman, which was meant to take place Christmas Eve, that's now been pushed back a month to January 24th. I know we were all I look forward to Inoue anytime, much less the day before Christmas. I really couldn't wait for that, because I was off work, because we don't work Christmas Eve, and I was thinking, brilliant. They're going to persist. I would imagine it's going to be on a Tuesday again, which means that it'll be a working day, which is not ideal. Which is a bit annoying, but apparently Sam Goodman got a cut, a little slash over the eye, and more than a little slash. So that's going to be a worry, because going into a fight with Naoya Inoue, he is vicious. He is a vicious, vicious man, and he will be chomping at the bit to go for that eye. Now, a lot of people are saying that they think that Naoya Inoue won't fight. I have no idea why. I think he beat him, quite frankly, Akhmadaliev. But people are saying that, he could fight him, but he's fighting Sam. It's a mandatory. I think he's IBF. He might even be more than one man. It's a mandatory. How is that? I never understood that when people say he could be fighting me, but he's fighting him. I was like, well, yeah, he has to. It's not a case of, he's ducking. It's a mandatory. If he wants to keep his status as undisputed, if he doesn't want to, then he can give it away. But if he wants to keep it, which I would imagine he would, then there you go. So MJ Akhmadaliev versus Naoya Inoue. They've got a busy year planned for Inoue next year. I think I can't remember who it was. It might have been Mike Coppinger. Was saying that the plan would be kind of September or Christmas time next year, thereabouts, to have him versus Nakatani. That would be massive in Japan. Flipping massive fight in Japan. But that was MJ Akhmadaliev. Chev Clark, again, I only caught the highlights of this fight. Clark was down in the first round. Listen, Chev Clark, I've seen him a couple of times. I think I've done at least one review of one of his fights, and I've always said it. I said, look, he's kind of alright. The age is a bit of a worry, 34 years of age, and he turned pro very late. I mean, he only made his pro debut 2 years ago, nearly 3 years ago now, but still, that's 34, it's going to be a hard comeback. Now, it was a competitive fight, don't get me wrong. It's not like he was blown out of the water. From what I could see in there, it was very competitive, even though he was down. But still, there's no... When you're that age, and you're kind of... he is sort of still in the prospect phase, Chev Clark, even though this was for the European title. when you're in that stage of your career, and prospect stage, and you're the age he is, it's different. If he was 24, you can move him back and take baby steps with him and go again, whenever. It's no problem. When you're 34, you can't really do that. So I don't know, it could be a long or potentially short road moving forward for Chev Clark. Gary Cully versus Maxi Hughes. This fight has been 5 years in the making. I remember I think Gary Cully won an Irish title in kind of February 2020, just before, and there was talk that it would be him against Maxi Hughes. The Maxi Hughes ended up fighting John O'Carroll, and that was behind closed doors. I think that was in August of 2020, and that was really the start of everything for Maxi Hughes. I actually interviewed Maxi Hughes back in 2020, and I think that was just after he'd gone abroad, I think to Kazakhstan or somewhere like that, and he'd actually upset someone else over there. But that was really the start of Maxi Hughes' run, which Maxi Hughes actually, and shout out to Maxi Hughes, he's got a very, very good YouTube channel, which I listen to now and again. I watched his video that he did today, and although he beat the crap out of Gary Cully, he beat him black and blue, he cut Gary Cully very bad as well. He said that he still has the demons of the Kambosos fight, not the demons of any punishment he received, because he didn't. He won that fight, as far as I'm concerned. He just said that he knew he won that fight, the Kambosos fight, but they didn't give it to him. And it's true, he won the fight, but they didn't give it to him. And he worried, would this happen again? This was never going to happen. 100-90 on all the judges' scorecards. Completely the correct decision. Gary Cully hasn't been the same since that Jose Felix knockout. I remember Gary Cully. Gary Cully is a cool guy. He's from Naas in County Kildare, which is kind of just not too far from Dublin. He's kind of on the edge of Dublin and County Kildare. But I've watched so many of Gary Cully's pro fights. I think 2018, it was when he fought on a couple of Frank Warren shows, and he fought on a couple of MTK shows that were on IFL. So I've seen a lot of Gary Cully's fights, and I remember some of Gary Cully's fights very early on. He was a real slapper. So you could tell there was power there, but he slapped an awful lot with shots. He really did. Then he started to find his form. I remember when he beat this guy Joe Fitzpatrick, knocked him out in a round. They were calling him they were calling him the Irish Tommy Hearns or something like that. And I remember at the time thinking, that's a big statement. But from then on, he started to really sit down in the shots. I remember when he fought Craig Woodworth. That might have actually been on the same show. No, it wasn't actually. Oh, it wasn't. I thought that might have been on the same show as Cully versus Maxi Hughes versus John O'Carroll. It wasn't. He was dropped in that fight. It was more a balance shot. He was legit knockdown, but it didn't dent his confidence. Then he went on a tear of just knockout after knockout after knockout after knockout. He's looking really good. Got stopped quite brutally by Jose Felix. Since then, he's not been the same. He's so gun shy. When he fought Reese Mulder, bear in mind Reese Mulder, he got knocked out by Ryan Walsh in a round. And look, Gary Cully, he was lucky. He was lucky to get the nod in that fight. He was a very lucky boy to get the nod in that fight. I don't know. I don't know. He's gonna have to some coming back needed from Gary Cully. There really is. I think that if I was Gary Cully, I would look at the contract I have with Eddie Hearn and I would say, can I get can I go and fight on a small hall show and just knock out a couple of cream puffs? I think that's what he needs to do. I think he needs to be in there against really nondescript opponents and just go on a knockout streak. Maybe get 2 or 3, good, easy wins, knockout wins, and then kind of get back into it, because he's going in there against kind of domestic level, European level guys like Reese Mulder and Francesco Patera. Not Pianetta, not the heavyweight. And although he's better than those guys, he's still very gun shy. I think better. Reese Mulder, that was a very close fight. He needs to find that confidence again. And the only way he's going to do it is by dropping down a good few levels and just getting big knockouts against nondescript opponents. It might not be what he wants to do. He is still quite young, 28 years old. But I think that might be the only thing for him, to be honest with you. In terms of some of the other shows, I haven't actually seen the Sky Sport. I haven't seen any fights. I heard that the Stevie McKenna fight on the Sky show was particularly good. I'll try and catch the highlights of that, but I haven't seen any on the Sky Sports show. In terms of the Top Rank show, I haven't seen Richard Torres' fight yet, but I did. Obviously, I did a video on it. Jaime Munguia, you know, the guy he fought, Bruno Saras, I think is how you say his name. He, again, I'd never heard of him at all. He'd been pro for 8 years, mainly fighting out of France. I think only fighting out of France actually, and went in there with a completely, you know, to say it wasn't a puncher's record, it wasn't even a particularly impressive record in itself, because I was looking at his box record before I did the post-fight review this morning. I was like, there's literally no names on here that I recognize. So, you know, that's not good. And the fact of the matter is, Jaime Munguia was doing well. He dropped the guy already in the second round. He was looking okay, you know, defensively, you know, Saras was getting through with a few shots, and you did kind of think, okay, he needs to tighten that up, but he's never done it before, so he's not going to do it now. And then just, boom. You know, it was a good shot. I'm not going to lie, it was a good shot, but to be knocked out like that against the guy who is really not a noted puncher, that's a worry. And if you're already, you know, Munguia's had a long career, even though he's not that old. He's 40 odd fights more, and he's taken, like, it's not just like people say, oh, the Canelo fight. No, it's not just the Canelo fight. You know, you got to look at the Sarah fight he had. He had some tough fights down at 168 or 160 pounds. You know, he really did. So I know the Sarah fight wasn't tough. It was the Derevchenko fight. That was actually quite a good performance in the Sarah fight, to be honest with you, with Munguia. That was on the same show where Gabe Brazado knocked out Bektemir Melikuziev, I think it was anyway. But yeah, he's always taken punishment, and I think now, well, if not now, after that knockout, I don't know. I really don't know. I think Munguia, it's a worry. It's going to be a big worry for him moving forward if he plans to continue, because this was a real cherry pick gone wrong. But would you even call it a cherry pick gone wrong? Well, yeah, you would. But sometimes when you see cherry picks gone wrong, you think like, oh, he was really good. He was a lot better than we all thought. This guy wasn't really doing much. I mean, he was losing this fight comprehensively. He was having a few moments in there, but like, just boom, it's over. You're like, whoa, what the hell? That's what it was like. And, you know, Munguia really should be, and he does have to beat this guy, in my opinion, but I don't know, man. It's 28 years old, and we could be talking about Munguia done. You know, it's crazy. But at the end of the day, you know, his style is so entertaining. It's so fun, but it's so taxing on the body. It really is. It's so taxing. There has to be, like, at the end of the day, right, we, as much as someone like Shakur Stevenson, although his style is not what we really particularly want to be seeing, it's not taxing on the body. Like, he could go another 10 years, no problem, right, with that style. There has to be a happy medium in between, where you're entertaining, but you're also not, you know, Canelo would be a prime example. He's entertaining. He's a good fighter. He's fun to watch. Quality over quantity, and then focuses on defense. You know, you're not bored most of the time anyway. The odd fight he's had that's been boring, and that's because the opponent's not done anything. But that's a great example of how to be entertaining, but not shift an awful lot of punishment. Munguia is just entertaining, but he shifts a lot of punishment, and it's taxing. It's very taxing on the body, you know, it really is. It's no joke. So, Jaime Munguia, yeah, look, he's got a long road back. In terms of Dillian Whyte, I did see Mike Perez as the co-main. The fight lasted, well, the referee administered a 10 count, so officially the fight took about just over 30 seconds. It was over in about 15 seconds. Mike Perez, Cuban, but he's been based out of County Cork for years now, many years, jeez, a long time, I think over a decade now. Mike Perez is one of those where he's fighting a cruiserweight. He's been fighting a cruiserweight for a while now. I remember he fought Myris Bradis in the World Boxing Super Series. I think that was in Latvia, if I'm not mistaken. And Myris Bradis, the performance from him that night was shocking. He held and he held and he held, And he was let away with it as well. He was let away with it. If he didn't do that, because Perez had his moments in there. If it didn't do that, Perez, it could have been interesting. Mike Perez, I mean, he's had inactivity in his career. I remember when he fought Povetkin, he was knocked out in the round over there in Russia. Apparently, he was drinking alcohol like before the fights. I mean, that's not going to do you any good against someone like Povetkin. You're talking about a peak Povetkin as well. Perez has, maybe not now, but he had the talent to win a world title at cruiserweight, in my opinion. He had the talent. Don't know if he has the time now. The talent might still be there, but does he have the time? You know, so let's wait and see. In terms of Dillian Whyte, Dillian Whyte, him against Ebenezer Tete. Ebenezer, coming close to Christmas. Ebenezer Scrooge, Ebenezer Tete. That was a interesting performance, to say the least. Fun fight. Very fun fight. Entertaining. I quite enjoyed watching it, but Dillian Whyte looked shocking in there. I mean, Ebenezer Tete is 36 years old. Well, according to BoxRec, he is. I wonder if we could put some community notes on that. You know, I wonder if we can actually get his birth cert. 36? Really? Okay, let's add an extra 12, 13 years on. Then we're probably A-okay. Ebenezer Tete looked slow as anything, but Dillian Whyte looked just as slow. And Dillian Whyte's never been a quick heavyweight. By no stretch of the imagination, he's always been slow. But even in this fight, he looked even slower, which, honestly, I look at Dillian Whyte in this fight, because he had about, let's say, a month to prepare, maybe a little bit more. So he had a bit more time than he did last time around. And he just looked shocking. Now, if he's talking about going in there against top heavyweights, Bakoli, Zhang, Hrgovic, who I need to talk about, because where the hell has he gone? We need to talk about Filip Hrgovic, Daniel Dubois, you know, people like that, Joseph Parker, etc., etc., etc. No chance. You know, Eddie Hearn has been talking about Anthony Joshua's next fight. Now that he's not going to rematch Daniel Dubois, he's been talking about Joshua coming back in May or June. There you go. There you go. O2 Arena, if Dillian Whyte can fight in the UK. O2 Arena, on the zone, done. Anthony Joshua, confidence builder. See, that's a confidence builder. Because Joshua's going to steamroll Dillian Whyte. Yeah, Joshua may, and I think he probably is, especially after that beating he took from Dubois. I'd say with Joshua, he's probably on the decline. Well, he was already on the decline going into the Daniel Dubois, we just didn't really know it as much. But I'd say he's going to be further on the decline now. But there you go. I mean, he's still going to beat Dillian Whyte based upon that performance. You know, Joshua would have knocked out Ebenezer Tete without even trying. It would have been one of those where because he would have absolutely lit Ebony. It would have been like that, Anthony Joshua in there against Tete. Beats Dillian Whyte, no problem, in my opinion. Or Derek Chisora. Frank Warren would be looking at that thinking, right. In fact, Frank Warren may look at that and think, do you know what, do we really need Ottavalin? If we can get around the board, can we just do that fight in Manchester? Because that's where they had the first fight, you may remember. I think it's where they had they had their second fight in the O2. They had the second fight in the O2, I think. Chisora's winning that fight. In fact, Joe Joyce is winning that fight. Moses Atauma is winning that fight against Dillian Whyte at this point. That was shocking from Dillian Whyte in there. He looked so bad. I'd stick a fork in him. You know, it's done. You know, Dillian Whyte, from about 2018 to the Povetkin fight, really, in 2020, 2 years, span of space of 2 years, was peak Dillian Whyte. And, you know, peak Dillian Whyte was a top 5-ish heavyweight, you know. I mean, Joseph Parker really should have won that fight. Not in terms of he was robbed, but it was there for him to win. He just didn't take it. Chisora fight was alright, you know. Who else? You know, Parker was probably his best win. When you or Povetkin, one or the other, Parker or Povetkin. But Povetkin, he'd seen much better days. He'd seen much better days against Michael Hunter. That was, what, a year before? 2 years before he actually lost. Nearly 2 years, or a year and a bit before he lost. So, Dillian Whyte for that period of time was probably at his best. Maybe up as, really those 2 years. He's not been the same since. I mean, against Fury, he looked terrible and he was taken out. You know, Tyson Fury was not at his best, in my opinion, against Dillian Whyte, but, you know, you could never have been able to tell that. Struggled quite badly against Jermaine Franklin, scraped the decision. And he won it, legit, but he scraped the decision. I mean, Dillian Whyte is just done at the top level, and even Johnny Fisher or someone like that, you know. yikes. Yeah, that's all I got to say on that one. In terms of this week, obviously, we know what this week is. It's Fury versus Usyk, the rematch. Overall, looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Watch along Saturday night. It is a must. I don't think it's going to be a late one because the undercard has been kind of whittled down a bit. Obviously, Dennis Mccan has returned an adverse analytical finding from Vada. We don't yet know, or at least I certainly don't know what the substance is that he's tested positive for. It's got rid of a fight that would have been good. Peter McGrail apparently is good because he's not on BoxRec. Apparently, he's gone from the card now, and you're not going to find a suitable opponent on short notice, you would imagine. So Peter McGrail is gone there. Dennis McCann fight off. I'd love to know what happened. As in, well, I know what happened, but what he tested positive for, and was it one? Was it multiple? What's going on here? Not a good look. Not a good look in the slightest for Dennis McCann. You know, and as I said in the previous video, you know, McCann, he looked okay. You know, in certain fights against Belude, he didn't look amazing, and then just went boom, looked good, looked really good. And, you know, sometimes you do have to ask questions. So, look, I really don't know the ins and outs, but let's keep a close eye on that one. So, we've lost that fight. Apparently, it's going to be Boacek versus Ishmael Davis because obviously Majimov pulled out. We all know why, but there you go. So, Ishmael Davis steps in. I can't imagine Davis is going to last the way he did against Kelly because I think Boacek is just much better than Josh Kelly, much better fighter than Josh Kelly, so that could end early. Low IQ versus McGregor. I expect McGregor to win that fight. Same with Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen. That fight it doesn't have the rounds listed. I would imagine they do a 10 rounder. I wouldn't imagine they'll have it unless I would say it'd be a 10 rounder. That could go some rounds. And then McKean versus Atelma. I still think Atelma McKean should co-main it. I think it's a really, really good fight. It's going to be a fight that I'm going to do a prediction video for. It deserves that. And I'm looking forward to that one. I really, truly am. You know, Dempsey McKean, I'd probably pick him over Dillian Whyte now at this stage. And he's in there with Atelma. So there you go. Atelma McKean, looking forward to that. And obviously the main event, Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury. You know, I got to talk, and I will do a separate video about the weights of both guys because I think the weights are going to be particularly interesting. Alexander Usyk, again, you know, people are asking the question, has he put on more weight? Has he done this? It's like Groundhog Day. We've heard that time and time again about Alexander Usyk. Oh, he's bulked up. Yeah, he looks a little bit more bulky, a little bit, in that most recent picture, but I'm not expecting him to weigh in. If he's heavier than he was last time, it may be a pound or two. It's not going to be anything significant, I would imagine. I'd be surprised if he was. Now, to be honest with you, I really would. We may get a better look at him, maybe at the public workout where, you know, we'll see him on the pads and we can maybe look and say, does he look a little bit, you know, more heavier in the arms and the chest and the back? Maybe able to see it there. As for Tyson Fury, I don't expect him, you know, you see people say, oh, he's going to be, you know, this, he looks the same as always. Do I think he's going to come in heavier? I think he probably will. The question is, how much heavier? Therein is your question. And truthfully, I really don't know. I think if he comes in too heavy, it could be detrimental to him. At the same time, some people say, well, if he comes in heavy, you know, that to them is a case of, right, well, he's just going to go for it. He's changing it up. He's going to go for the jugular, and it's going to be kind of kamikaze style, you know. I'll either get him out or he'll take me out. And to be honest with you, I think that may be the best way to do it, because you come in heavy and you go try and box Alexander Usyk in the mouth, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's just, you're going to fatigue yourself even quicker than you did last time, and you're going to present an even bigger target to hit. So I'm intrigued to see what Tyson Fury does. I'm intrigued to see the weights. I mean, there's a lot of things that are really intriguing me. Let's have a quick talk and gander at some of the boxing news that's going around. Dalton Smith will return on the January 25th. I think that fight card is going to be up in Nottingham, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, in Nottingham. You know, it does make me wonder where Lee Wood is and what's going on with him, because Lee Wood was great with those nights in Nottingham. We haven't seen him in a while now. We really haven't. So Lee Wood, We miss Lee Wood. We like Lee Wood on here. We'd love to see him have one more fight anyway before it's all said and done. What else do we have here? We're looking for the boxing news. Maxi Hughes Matchroom have options on Maxi Hughes. They may look to match him against Andy Cruz. That would be actually an interesting scrap, to be honest with you. Maxi Hughes against Andy Cruz. I wouldn't be picking Maxi Hughes most likely in that fight. I did see this, and this is going to be an interesting one, right? So, Matchroom have confirmed that on the 1st of March in Belfast next year, Lewis Crocker, Paddy Donovan, All-Irish clash in Belfast. Really looking forward to that. Apparently, this will be a final eliminator, final eliminator for Boots Ennis' IBF title. Now that's interesting because Boots Ennis may move up. He may move up, he may not. I mean, it's an in-house fight for the winner regardless because they're both Matchroom, Crocker and Donovan. So the winner fights Boots Ennis, who's also Matchroom. So it's a win-win for Eddie Hearn in that situation. Worst case scenario, the winner fights for a vacant title. There you go. Because Boots may move up. In terms of the fight itself, I think it's flipping brilliant. The one thing I'm a little bit, I don't say disappointed in, is the wrong word, because the atmosphere in Belfast will be electric. It always is you've got a Belfast fighter and you've got a Limerick fighter. Do it on neutral ground. Do it in Dublin. Do it in Galway. Do it in Cork. Do it, maybe not Cork, that's too close to Limerick, but you know what I mean. Do it on neutral ground. Doesn't have to be in Belfast. Although saying that, the atmosphere in Belfast will be, it always is, be flipping amazing. It's always a good atmosphere up in Belfast. Always. So that fight right there, I'm looking forward to that. I'm slightly edging Paddy Donovan in that fight now, I'm not going to lie. I think it's likely Paddy Donovan will get the win, but man, it's a very, very competitive fight. It's a very, very competitive fight. So let's see. Oh my God, yeah, I've seen this, right? So just when you think things can't get any worse for Anthony Yarde, Benjamin has said they've now made an offer. And they've made an offer to whom, you may ask? You know, could it be a top like heavyweight for Anthony Yarde that he's not already Lyndon Arthur? I'll say that again. Ben Shalom has said that he's now made an offer to Lyndon Arthur for the Anthony Yarde trilogy. Is this really what Anthony Yarde's team have resorted to? Ben Shalom, Anthony Yarde. Now, I don't know if is he the promoter, but is this really what it's come down to now for Anthony Yarde? Your rivals, Craig Richards, Willie Hutchinson, Joshua Boazzi, Callum Smith, with the exception of Dan Aziz, is the only one. They've all fought on Saudi shows. They're all in good fights. Willie Hutchinson beat Craig Richards. He fought Joshua Boazzi. Boazzi is now fighting Callum Smith. And Anthony Yarde, through his own fault, there's no one else to blame but him for listening to his team, advising him to leave the promoter who's just hit it big with the Saudis. You've only ever headlined really big. You've never headlined a pay-per-view. You've headlined one show at the Wembley Arena, the OVO, right, against Artur Beterbiev, who was the world champion, right? You've had to go to Russia, Silyabinsk, for Kovalev. After you lost to Beterbiev, you've been on undercards against nondescript opponents, including your last fight, which you nearly lost. You could have easily lost without the knockdown, against, again, another nondescript opponent in the Copper Box. I mean, what is going on with Anthony Yarde? And anyone who thinks that... And the reason why I get animated about this is because Yarde should be in these Saudi shows. He should be in the mix with these because he's good enough to hang with these light heavyweights. He's good enough to hang with the likes of Joshua Boazzi. I desperately want to see that fight. He's good enough to hang with the likes of Callum Smith at this point, Willie Hutchinson, etc. What on earth is going on? And no disrespect to Lyndon Arthur meant in the slightest, but we've been there, seen it and done it. We seen it in 2020. It wasn't a great fight. Lyndon Arthur got his hand raised. We saw the rematch a year later. We don't need to see it again. Lyndon Arthur has not progressed in his career. He's regressed, if anything. Alright? Yarde is just completely stagnant. And it would be okay if he was in his mid-20s and you were saying, right, you've made a right cock up of this, but you've got time on your hands. The man's nearly in his mid-30s now. And again, his team, and Yarde's obviously going to want to think, oh yeah, I'm a big star. Well, yeah, you can think that, but like, you got to be smart as well, man. Like, what the hell are you doing? Your career, you've not fought a really, well, actually you did in your last fight, to be fair, but you've not done anything of note in nearly 2 years in your respective career. And again, your rivals are over here in Saudi Arabia, getting the big fights made, putting themselves in prime position to challenge for world titles, making life-changing money, the money that you feel that you should be getting. Well, how much did you get for your last fight? A 10-rounder in the copper box. I'd love to know. Was it in the millions? I seriously doubt it. This is just mental. Absolutely mental for Anthony Yarde. I don't want to. I really don't want to see the Lyndon Arthur fight again. I've seen it twice. It was comprehensive, the win for Yarde last time. Very comprehensive. Don't need to see it again. What's the point? That's a real, we've just run out of ideas. Let's just try and recycle this Lyndon Arthur fight for a trilogy. That's it. They've run out of ideas. That's all it is. So, there you go. I was just, I don't know. I don't know. Now, it was announced on Friday. I think I heard about it on Thursday evening. I think it was announced. TJ Dehenny will challenge Nick Ball for the WBA featherweight title. This will be in the MS Bank Arena in Liverpool on TNT Sports. One of the last shows Frank could be doing, maybe even the last show Frank does with TNT Sports. My thoughts on this fight. I love watching Nick Ball. He's one of my favourite fighters to watch. I think he's an incredible talent. I think that he should be a unified champion, to be honest with you. I don't agree with TJ Dehenny losing to Naoya Inoue and moving up in weight and getting straight in with a world title fight. I don't like this. It's happening with other sanctioning bodies now. I don't know. I think the IBF have done it. The WBC have done it. The WBA are now doing it. I'm not sure about the WBO, but I don't like this. As far as I'm concerned, right, if you've taken an L in a world title fight, unless it's under controversial circumstances, as in, it was a really controversial stoppage that shouldn't have been stopped, fair enough, and you were doing well, you were winning George Groves, Carl Froch style, fair enough, that's fine. If it was a fight in which you were hard done by on the scorecards, they order a rematch, fair enough. He had little moments against the Inoue, but that was it. He wasn't in the fight really, and he moves up in weight and gets this. No, I don't like this. I don't like giving fighters world title shots off the back of losses. For me, I really don't like it. I really don't like it. So hopefully, look, it's gonna happen, but hopefully they'll stop with this, dispense with it. I don't like it. I think that's pretty much everything. I did see there that Martin Bakole versus F.A. Jagba is reportedly a done deal. Apparently that was one of the fights they were going to look to do on this February 22nd show. You may remember Eddie Hearn and Frank were saying that they actually had to get Turkey to take 2 fights off it, that we obviously still don't know who they are. Apparently one of them was a Jagba versus Bakole, because the show would literally go on into the wee hours in the morning UK time, and God knows, I mean, they'd be probably leaving the arena straight onto their flight in Saudi because it would go on so long. Good fight. I make Bakole favourite. Jagba can punch. He can do that, but I think he would get ate up by Martin Bakole in there. I really do. I think Bakole will eat him up, literally. Jagba can punch, but when he's in there with a big puncher or someone who can hurt him, his punch output drops dramatically, like he did against Frank Sanchez. I think it's going to drop even bigger. Although he'll have an easier target to hit though with Bakole, because Frank Sanchez can move. He did very good performance that night. Frank Sanchez against F.A. Jagba. Bakole's not going to move like he's not. I hope is he going to move like that. So it would give Jagba more opportunities. I wonder will he take it back, because he can punch. Believe me, he can punch. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't want this video to go. I think this video's already gone on long enough anyway. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. Until next time, people. Peace.